Games come in a lot of different styles and genres. You have your laid-back simulation games, turn-based RPGs, sports games, shooters. Basically, if you can think of it, that type of game probably exists. Games also come in a wide variety of difficulties. Some games are a little on the easier side, and some are a bit more of a challenge to play. When it comes to challenging games, the golden standard is From Software's Dark Souls series, and also their standalone game, Bloodborne. This style of games, often lumped together and dubbed Soulsbornes, are some of the most daunting, terrifying games known to man. I mean, the games are known for a big ol' "you died" screen. How on earth is that supposed to be warm and inviting? Well, here's the thing. I don't think that Soulsborne games are hard. In fact, I think that they're some of the most rewarding games to play after you've learned exactly how to manage yourself in them. So, maybe you've had your eye on Dark Souls, Bloodborne, or that fancy new Demon Souls remake. Or maybe you're like I was and you just feel too intimidated to try to get into it. Either way, let me take a little to explain to you not only what makes these games worth playing, but also a few tips for starting out. If you don't enjoy my advice, then I will personally repay you all the money you spent watching this video. Which is none, for the record. The video was free, so even if you don't like it, there's no loss, no gain. Anyways, let's get going. So let's suppose that you're here with no idea exactly what a Dark Souls game is. Let's explain real quick. Dark Souls is a fantasy RPG that's known for its difficulty spikes, though I'm sure you've gathered that already. The game allows you to play how you want within some confines, being that your stats will allow for what you want to do. When you defeat an enemy, you absorb souls, the game's form of currency and experience. You can use souls to either buy items and armors or to level up your stats, ranging from standard health and attack upgrades to equipment load and magic abilities. This far, it's been pretty standard stuff, until we go into the main mechanics of the game. Along your journey, you'll reach bonfires that you can rest at. Resting will allow you to recover health, restore healing items, and in certain points, teleport or level up, depending on the game. But there is a huge drawback to resting at a bonfire. Every enemy you've killed will be reset. They'll all be right back where they were, doing the same things they did before you killed them. That means you might find yourself in some sticky situations when you rest. Not to mention, if you die, you drop all the souls you were carrying at the time. If you can make it back to them, you can reclaim them. But if you die again, those souls are straight up gone. This can be stressful, but after a while, you learn not to stress about the loss of souls and focus more on how you can make up for them if need be. Obviously, that sounds intimidating for newer players, but there's definitely parts of the game that can be enjoyed despite the stress of losing everything. The games are rich with story, beautiful scenery, and giant epic bosses to topple, who don't respawn when killed. But before we get into the meat of this, we need to take some time to talk about the narratives and plot of Dark Souls. The main quest varies from game to game. The first and third follow a lot of the same elements. You're a chosen undead who's tasked with getting to the first flame and either linking it, allowing the world to continue as it is, or allowing the flame to go out. Obviously, one of those endings is a little more canon than the other, but either way, they're both fantastic journeys that take you to a lot of beautiful vistas. Definitely worth checking out. Dark Souls 2, on the other hand, kind of does its own thing for a while, taking you to a different land altogether in a quest to kill the king and ascend the throne. For full disclosure, I'm not super familiar with Dark Souls 2, however, I know much of the gameplay is similar, so I feel like I do know what I'm talking about overall. Bloodborne, on the other hand, is another beast entirely. Even though it doesn't bear the same title as the Dark Souls games, it's still got a lot in common, and in my opinion, it's the most rewarding to master. Bloodborne ditches the fantasy setting for a Gothic-style Victorian England setting, full of lycanthropes, crazy people, and other Lovecraftian horrors. Rather than the slower gameplay of Dark Souls, Bloodborne is fast-paced, trading your dodge rolls for a sidestep and your shield for a gun. The player is incentivized to move quickly and look for openings, look for moments to counter and fire their gun to parry. The gameplay feels good to maneuver through. Bonfires are replaced by lanterns, which allow you to travel to a safe place, to level up and just choose what area to tackle next. I don't want to spoil too much of the story, so let me give you just enough to pique your interest. You are a hunter, and you've just awoken in Yharnam on the night of the hunt. The natives of Yharnam are all locked up in their homes, and you're left to fend for yourself and survive the hunt, while also discovering why you're here in the first place. As was the case in Dark Souls, in Bloodborne you lose your souls, called blood echoes here, when you die. However, in this instance, should an enemy walk over it, you'll have to take them out first if you want your echoes back. This sort of player-enemy dynamic is a challenge at first, but as you learn enemy placements and patterns along with mastering your use of dodging and countering, you'll find in time that the stuff that seemed hard at first has now become easy. Now that we've covered both what Dark Souls and Bloodborne are, let's talk about what makes them worth playing. Aside from the gameplay and story themselves, the biggest reason I would suggest these games is really simple: the feeling of growth. The first time I played Bloodborne, it took me about 3 hours to finish the first boss I found, with most of that time being traversing and backtracking, trying to get through the areas. On repeat playthroughs, I can finish that area in about 15 minutes tops. And that's not because my character is stronger, it's because I, the player, am more familiar with how pieces move. I know which enemies will be where and when, which groups to pick off and kill, stuff like that. I even know how to get some stronger gear early on so that I can have a bit higher rate of survival. Sure, I got frustrated at first, but my feelings of frustration never prevented me from wanting to go back and keep fighting. And now I would even go as far as to say that Bloodborne is one of my favorite games of all time, along with a few of the Dark Souls games. After hearing me praise this style of game, you might be thinking, hey, that's great, but it still looks way too hard and I don't want to play it. To which I say, we haven't gotten to that part of the video yet. Let me give you a handful of tips I've learned to increase your odds of survival when starting out early on in Soulsborne games. First things first, and this one is really important. Take your time. These games aren't meant to be rushed when setting out. You have a lot that you need to learn to do to keep yourself alive, so it's important to learn just how to use everything you have. In Dark Souls especially, a lot of weapons have different techniques and uses that may not be apparent at first, such as two-handing a weapon to increase its damage and change the way it swings. You have to know what you're working with, and how to use it to its fullest extent. As you get further along, you'll learn how to manage yourself better and you can pick up the pace, but setting out in a new area, it's okay to be cautious. Hide behind your shield for comfort if need be. Don't worry about it too much. You don't lose stamina unless you block something, so hiding behind your shield is totally okay. That brings us to number 2. It's okay to die. Obviously, dying with a huge amount of souls doesn't feel good. It's never fun to feel like progress is being lost. But there is some value in dying, even if it means that your character may not level up. You can still benefit from learning areas, discovering new strategies, and just generally getting a feel for your surroundings. You may find a route that was faster than the last one, or a way to clear a lot of enemies at once. Just remember that even though your character needs to level up to stay alive, it doesn't mean that that's the only way to improve while you play. And also, sometimes the game wants you to die so that it can teach you about certain elements of the game in a sort of weird, cruel tutorial. That being said, there will be times that you're worried about dropping a lot of souls or just in a rough situation. And that's okay if you feel stressed or even overwhelmed by it. But just remember, you don't need to be afraid to ask for help. All of these games have some form of multiplayer, where you can summon in either real people to help you with tougher sections, or computer players that can just assist and take a bunch of body blows. Both of these types of players are super helpful. But if that isn't an option for you for whatever reason, it's also okay to look up information on new areas or enemies. These games have been out for a while, and a lot of players have strategies devised to make life just a bit easier for you. There's never any harm nor shame in requesting assistance when something feels too difficult, and it's important to never give up. If you feel like you've hit a wall, take a look elsewhere. Sometimes the game will have areas that you didn't know existed, and you might fare a bit better in one of them instead of where you are now. Or, if a previous area is still giving you trouble, you can head to one of them and keep fighting there until you're strong enough to handle it no sweat. If that doesn't help, try mixing up your fighting style. Look for new moments to attack, or try using ranged attacks instead of fighting up close. There's plenty of ways to handle what the game presents to you. It's up to you to figure out how you want to approach it. And once you find the style that works well for you, it'll be substantially easier to handle the rest of what the game is throwing at you. There are a ton of other things that I would love to suggest. From trying different items to see what they do, to exploring every area from top to bottom. But the biggest thing I want to make clear is this final point. If you don't enjoy the game, don't keep playing it. I know this sounds weird, but I know several people who would play Dark Souls not because they wanted to, but to say that they did. These games are challenging, and I do think they're rewarding, but if they aren't for you, they just aren't for you. Don't try to force it. A lot of times I hear people saying, oh, if you just make it past this part, then it gets better. But my policy has always been that if you have to wait for something to get good, maybe it's better to spend your time on something that you think is good the whole way through. And there's no shame in saying that the game is too hard or just not appealing, so don't worry too much about what other people will think. And sure, there are players like me out there who will gladly carry a newer player through Dark Souls and help them realize exactly what makes the game rewarding to learn. But if you don't have someone like that, it's okay to play a different game. Games are meant to be enjoyed, not chores for you to do. Play whatever game makes you the happiest. I know I went a little off topic there, but I felt like I needed to say it. At any rate, if you were intimidated by Dark Souls before, I hope this helped in some way, shape, or form. I do believe that they are some of the best and most rewarding games I've ever played. The lore is hidden in tons of item descriptions, and the story isn't quite spelled out. So when you do finally connect the dots and understand the events of the story, it feels really good. And some of the boss fights are super epic, both in scope and scale. But working up to all that can feel painful unless you know what you're doing. So if you do decide to try Dark Souls someday, keep these things in mind as you start out. And if it helps, be sure to let me know. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me explain how to start Dark Souls. I know it's a bit of an odd topic, but I have a lot of people in my life I want to introduce to different kinds of games, and I think videos like this are a great way to do it. If you have someone you know who you want to introduce to Dark Souls, show them this video. And I gotta say, since we're winding things down real quick, I love what you're wearing today. That outfit is just so you know? Thank you for watching again, and real quick at the end, I just wanted to include some of my panicked reactions that I captured while I was recording footage for this. I found them kind of funny, and I hope you do too. So I'm just gonna roll that at the end here. Think of it more as a bonus. As always, my name's Andrew, and I hope you have an awesome day. Roll the exit clips!
Ah! Oh, okay.
No, 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 no.
No, please.
What was that?
Is it coming back? Please, leave me alone.